Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the 3-Point Podcast, your place for all things NBA news, debates, and discussions. I am once again joined today by my co-hosts Gabe and Tyrik. Today we'll be discussing some trade rumors, some bigger topic discussions we'll have later in the day. But first off, we have to start with the AllStar starter selections. We made our picks last week. Most of them were accurate, but we had the one glaring difference in Andrew Wiggins where we all had Draymond Green. And so I got to get your guys' thoughts on that and what you guys feel about the All-Star starters.
Gabe, you can go first.
Okay. Honestly, I'm surprised. I was very shocked. I follow a couple of those like NBA meme accounts where they'll like post like some fake quotes or like fake news and stuff. And so I saw that and I was like, dude, that's got to be fake. Because, he was super high up in the fan vote. So it was like that Zaza Pachulia thing almost where it's like, oh, he's really high up there. But then does not end up making it because things come back to reality. You get the players and the media and it just doesn't happen. But, I'm happy for him at the end of the day. I mean, I hope he can flip his kind of career narrative around. I think most people would still view him as a bust given the expectations. But I'm glad that he's finally like in a good place right now. This is a hell of an accolade for him. So happy to see it, but very shocked.
I wouldn't say he's a bust. I feel like he's contributing to winning basketball, which is what everybody's just wanted him to do and act like he cares, which it seems like he does. But all-star starter, that's tough. That's tough. Look, we all had Draymond Green being a starter, and I think even there could be, arguments for other guys. But hey, I'm happy for Wiggins. Like, this is a big accomplishment. I'm glad that he's an all-star, but I was shocked. I was shocked when I saw it. Like, I definitely thought I was getting trolled when I saw Shams tweet it. But hey, crazier things have happened, I guess. But this is up there. I mean, it just begs the question, like, maybe are they going to maybe reorchestrate how voting goes? Because this like maybe make it to where some guys can be listed as guards and forwards because the forward pool this year has been so thin with the injuries and COVID and all that. I feel like there's a lot more deserving names that should be starters, but I guess Wiggins, it's not his fault. Shout out to him, but damn, it's crazy.
Yeah, I think there's definitely got to be a move towards a little bit more positionless selection for the All-Star game for sure.
I think positionless definitely makes sense. I see a lot of people saying they should take away some of the fan vote, which I don't think I agree with because it's like on one hand, yeah, it is an accolade that like kind of matters. But like when you're talking all-time discussions and like kind of Hall of Fame rankings and stuff, I feel like that's really all-star selections are not the main thing people look for. Because at the end of the day, it's like just a show for the fans. And I feel like all NBA and then like awards, championships, of course, stuff like that. I feel like that matters a lot more. And at the end of the day, if you're making an argument between like Andrew Wiggins and player B, you're not going to say, oh, Andrew Wiggins is a better all time because he was an all-star in 2022 and this player is not.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, as much as obviously, like you say, like kudos to Wiggins, definitely some players that were probably more deserving. But at the end of the day, like All-Star game is for the fans. The All-NBA is a little bit less so. Like, not that either have to be the do-all, end-all when you're comparing players, like you say, but I think all NBA teams is more so there to say that's where we're giving credit to our top 15 guys in the league, as opposed to the All-Star game that still should hold that to a standard. You shouldn't have Zaza Pachulia in there, but is also got to be there for the fans. And so I don't think that fan voting is really going to change, nor should it really for the fan interest in the NBA either.
I think
overall, I gotta disagree with you. I gotta die on this island. I still think that Andrew Wiggins, as of right now, is still a bust. I just gotta throw that out there because I know you said he's contributing to winning basketball, but just in that discussion, I think if you look at the expectations, and I would call busting being falling short of your expectations. So like. I still think for what he was supposed to be coming into the league, he's not that, and I still don't think he's close to that. Being like a third, fourth option and being really good at that, I still feel like for a number one pick, that's far short. That's the guy you want to come in and be the number one that kind of changes a franchise.
So is Lonzo Ball a bust too? Because he had very big expectations coming in too. And you could say he's maybe fell short of those, but he's still a very good player.
I mean, kind of, yeah. I think it's not as like major because one, he was like, I mean, number two and number one are still close. And then Lonzo, I mean, he's still not the star that people expected him to be. I think he just started off so bad that he kind of has that like more of a positive narrative around him. Whereas like Andrew Wiggins kind of started off good, and then it was like, what the heck? How did this guy just like fall off a cliff?
Jimmy Butler made everybody hate Wiggins and Towns for a couple years.
Definitely.
I think the Jimmy
Yeah.
Butler saga really affected the perception of those guys around, not just the league, but just like NBA fans in general.
I don't think his contract helped him either. Not that that should be how we rank players, but it happens. People get overpaid, and people look at
Yeah.
them worse than they do. That definitely
Whoa,
didn't help.
Wiggins he's like what, 26? It's 27 maybe.
27, I think. Yeah, he can't be much older than that.
He's still
Which-
relatively like young-ish. Like he's not old. That's the craziest thing. And I feel like he's turning it around because a lot of questions about him going to Golden State was how he was going to fit in. And I think last year he had some very good moments, but he also had some very poor moments. I think this year is kind of minimized that. I think he's fully comfortable. You know, we see his 3-point percentage going way up. I think he's 40% on the year. And even though he's not scoring like 23, 24 points a game like he was in year 2 and year 3, but he's still contributing, you know, solid 18 points, good efficiency. Been a very good defender too the last couple of years. So I think he may not be what they called him, Maple Jordan or whatever. He may not be that, but he's still a very, very quality NBA player. And now he's an all-star. So shout out to him.
Which I will agree.
Team.
I will agree on that point. Like he can still be a very good player, and me saying that I still think he's a bust is not like calling him trash or saying that not even saying he's not deserving of an all-star selection. But this is why we say like hold out on players and don't judge too quickly. Because you even mentioned Lonzo Ball in that discussion too. Like now he's finally trending in the positive direction, and Lonzo's still what, like probably not even 25 yet. So like by the time he gets to like 28 or so, I mean, he could be playing at all-star level too. And it's like some people are really late bloomers. So, I mean, I'm hoping he can continue this and kind of change the narrative for the rest of his career. But if this is like a one and done thing, then, I mean, it's still going to look tough.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of
I
players
mean-
like that I think that are late bloomers that people just give up on way too early. Like even to a lesser extent, not that people had really given up on him, but Miles Bridges this year and even last year when he was starting when they had injuries was great. And before then, he was just okay. He's a fine role player. But there's a lot of guys year 3, year 4, or even year 5 that still just really take a step forward that people give up on.
Julius Randle's a prime example. Even though
100%.
this year's been kind of
Yeah.
iffy, but last year we saw the big jump that he made. Jaylen Brown's another dude. Like I don't think people saw him taking that big of a leap, you know, from year 2 to year 3.
Yeah,
And he
you
just progressively
You
gotten
got that
better.
big extension, and everyone had a bunch of questions, and then you just shut everyone up.
Exactly. And there, like you said, there's a lot of players like that. There's a lot of guys like that. So it's tough to like judge. That's why I try to hold out on judging guys early. Like we're kind of getting off topic, but like I always see people judging like Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs. I'm like, man, these guys are young guards in the NBA.
They're
Like you got to
50
give those
games into their
guys.
career. Like
You got to give those guys time.
No, for sure, have to.
Yeah.
Judging rookies is absurd because some people have terrible rookie. I think like I'm pretty sure it was Trae Young was like trash the first half of his rookie season, and look at him now.
Yeah. I was like another guy that gets like a lot of like slander. Killian Hayes gets it bad, and his production is not good. But it's just like, man, he's like 20 years old, man. You just kind of got to be a little patient with the guy. Like he's still very, very young. So I don't know. I feel like maybe by year 3, that's when you kind of know what a player typically is, and then you have the rare case where somebody takes a leap late, like you know, when they're 25, 26. But by year 3, I think that's when you kind of know what you're getting with a guy.
Yeah, for the
Which
most part.
that's how it's so weird how like you look at Wiggins in year 3 where he was like kind of inefficient, 25 point per game scorer, didn't really play a lot of defense, kind of low motor. But now it's like look at him in year 7 and it's like, okay, only like 19 points a game, a lot better defense, a lot more bought in. And maybe that's just because the culture that was around him, like maybe it's some more extrinsic motivation because it's like, obviously the scouting report on him coming into the league, it's like, okay, now we can see why he had that potential. It just took a lot to bring it out.
For sure.
Yeah, credit to him. All-star starter. Wouldn't have
Crazy.
expected it, but hey, here we go. Moving off from the All-Star game, we'll talk about a little bit of trade rumors here. James Harden, a few rumors coming out about him the week. Potential moves with the Philadelphia 76ers, a sign and trade this summer. The 76ers have expressed interest in probably not trading Simmons at the deadline, holding on to the summer, potentially getting James Harden. Reports that Harden isn't happy in Brooklyn, isn't happy with Steve Nash. He will likely be a free agent this summer as he can opt out of his contract at the end of the year. So it's possible we don't see James Harden in Brooklyn, and there might only be KD in Brooklyn next year if things really fall apart.
I guess as the resident James Harden fan, I'll take the discussion. If the rumors are true and he does end up leaving to go to Philly, I'm just kind of disappointed in James for making all that mess in Houston and saying he wanted to go to Brooklyn just for him a year later to say he wants out. Like, that just looks very bad on his part. And if the reports are true that he doesn't like the city of Brooklyn, doesn't enjoy the nightlife, like, dude, you got bigger things to worry about. Like, you kind of, should be thinking about winning the championship. And, I can understand him maybe being frustrated with the Kyrie situation. I'm sure that would definitely be a little frustrating because he probably want to get out of Houston so he didn't have to, be the lone man on the court every single night, which, with KD being out is pretty much the case now. So for him to do all that, it's just kind of like it feeds into the narrative that's been like made about him, that he's kind of like a drama queen, a prima donna. Like, that's kind of what it's feeding into. And I hate to see it, man, but he shut the rumors down, which is kind of what you're supposed to do. So I don't know. This is weird. I don't really see him leaving Brooklyn after just a year and a half, but you never know with James Harden. I didn't think he was going to end up in Brooklyn, but here we are. So you never really know what's going to happen with him, but it seems like there's always some type of drama surrounding him, and it's tiring as a fan to just continue to see this happen.
I can see why he's so frustrated, though. Like, just from the perspective how they got this big three together, and I don't even think they've played like 20 games together, and it's been like a season and a half. It's like we have never seen that, really. I feel like the closest thing is maybe like that 2012 Lakers team that like had all the injuries when they were supposed to be like a super team. But like, this is unforeseen. At some point, you gotta see these guys together, but it's like, I feel like you should ride it out a little longer than this for sure. But being that frustrated is pretty understandable, I think. If you come to this situation expecting to have two all-stars around you, and then it's still just you or maybe one of them, you're like never playing with your full squad.
Yeah, it's definitely understandable, but like, if Philly's the only destination that he's going, that's probably not any better. I mean, Joel Embiid's not exactly known for being on the court well either. I mean, this year he's been available, but that's not exactly much of a better situation to be in as far as an availability standpoint goes. So I don't know. Like you said, Tyrik, I think that's a good point of like, he forced his way out of Houston. He's only been there for a year and a half now. If he just walks out again, doesn't look great on him, but I don't know. Like, Brooklyn have committed a lot. I like the fit in Philly, but there's no guarantee he's going to be playing alongside a co-star 70 plus games a year there either. So I don't know. I don't know whether to believe the rumors at this point, but it's definitely going to be an interesting situation to watch come the summer.
I saw some people say he should go to Atlanta. What do you guys think about James Harden in Atlanta? Just don't even think about contracts or anything. Just James Harden in Atlanta. Give me some thoughts.
With Trae Young?
Yeah.
I can't see it, man. I think Trae Young is really best. He's just best when he just has the ball in his hands. I can't see him playing without the ball because he hasn't done it early on in his career. And it's different for somebody like James Harden, who has played without the ball, like back in OKC. But once the ball just gets in your hands that much, you don't really know how to operate that well without it.
Yeah,
and I don't see Trae Young being able to do that.
No, personally, he's best in the ball with his hands. Great passer, great playmaker. Like, some people might think you can then run it a little bit more like Steph does in Golden State, where he's off ball more, can have more catch and shoot opportunities. Trae could maybe do that, and he'd be fine, but I think he's just better with the ball in his hands. I don't think I don't know. It's an okay fit, but I don't think it's a great fit.
I'm just gonna say James Harden will be back with Capella, which we saw was very successful, and James Harden at one point played with Chris Paul, and it was very successful. I mean, they were one game away from a finals, and probably Chris Paul's hamstring away from a finals. Not trying to say like Trae Young is obviously not a shoo-in for Chris Paul, but like when those two got together, everybody said, "Oh, they both like are very ball dominant players. They're gonna need to do that to succeed. There's no way it's ever gonna fit." And it fit very well.
That's a great point. But I think the thing that separates the two is Chris Paul is a hellified defender. Like that's kind of separated. Like Trae Young's, he's not that. Like Trae Young's probably one of the worst defenders in the league. So I think that's the big disparity between. That's a like good comparison, offensively speaking, but defensively, that's when it kind of gets iffy because James Harden is not really a defender either, and Trae Young is definitely not anywhere near the defender Chris Paul was.
No, Atlanta don't need offense ultimately. Like sure they could do with more, but when they're playing well, it's their offense and their defense, especially that plays well. And when they're not playing well, like they have for a large part of the season, it's been their defense that's been the part that struggled. So it's a fine addition, but I don't know.
Not to segue too quick, but Atlanta did just get a defender back recently, and they've been looking really good.
They have.
Yeah,
fourth in defensive rating on the 6-game winning streak, so I'll give them that.
So is DeAndre Hunter that much of an X factor? Are we buying in?
I think he matters a heck of a lot when you're talking about your other wings being not Cam Reddish anymore, because then their defense really falls off on the wing. I mean, Danilo Gallinari isn't some elite wing defender, especially at this point in time in his career. Herder is fine. Bogdanovich is fine. They don't have anyone that's a positive defender at that point. So I think it's partly him and then partly just the rest of the team buying in, because it was about the same thing with Memphis early on in the year. They were terrible defensively, and then Dillon Brooks came back and they were great defensively. So it definitely wasn't all Dillon Brooks, and I don't think it's all DeAndre Hunter, but DeAndre Hunter's a hell of a valuable player for sure.
Yeah, I don't think it is all him, but what he does on the defensive side is just very valuable. He can guard multiple positions. I think he doesn't get a lot of credit, really. Like, I think people see him being a top 4 pick, and they're just like, he's cool. Nah, he's super valuable, man. Like, it showed in the playoffs last year, even though he ended up missing, I think, most of the Philly series and the entirety of the Eastern Conference Finals. But when he played in that Knicks series, man, he was clamping up. He was clamping up, especially when he's guarding Julius Randle. He's a very valuable piece on the defensive side, and his offensive game has progressively gotten better each year. Big-time piece that's just – I think that's why they were so comfortable with trading Cam Reddish, not for anything, because they're like, we're getting DeAndre back, so we should be better, which is – it's impressive, man. I just hate that they dug themselves such a big hole, because now it just seems like they have to go on a crazy run like last year just to make it into the playoffs.
OG Anunoby is kind of a comparison for DeAndre Hunter, I feel, as far as early on in his career, how he plays.
Very good one.
I will say, though, they're only 2 games under 500 right now. So they're very much like in that play-in contention. I think they're probably only like a half game out or so. They might even be in it now.
Yeah, they're tied with the Wizards for the 10 seed.
Yeah, so they're right back in it. So I guess I want to ask, how much hot stock are you guys buying right now? Do you guys think like this team can really turn it around and get to like an 8 seed? Or how far do you think they can go if this trajectory continues?
I think they're the most dangerous team that's not in the top 6. I think they're the most dangerous team. I would not want to see this team in a playing situation, because Trae Young can control a game offensively probably better than anybody that's, in that playing race right now, my personal opinion. And this team, they've been in this situation last year, so their confidence level is probably ramping up the more games that they win in a row. And they're getting guys back healthy. Hopefully Clint Capella can get back to his form. And just if they do make another move, hopefully it's not nothing that shakes it up too much. Hopefully John Collins will just stay put, because I think him and Trae Young together super valuable, super good, and he's improved his game. I wouldn't want to see this team in a playing situation. And personally, if I was one of the top, 5 seeds, I would not want to see this team in the first round either. It's not a team that I want to play.
No, definitely not. That's not a fun first-round matchup. They're definitely the team I'd be the most scared of coming out of those playing games for sure. Like Charlotte are fine, Boston are fine, Toronto, Washington, the Knicks. they're all fine, but I'm not overly scared about them in the first round matchup if I'm one of those top seeds. But Atlanta could cause some problems if they get going.
Yeah, especially those other play-in teams. Like Charlotte's playing really well, but don't forget Charlotte's still a young team. And then Boston is so inconsistent that if they're playing the Hawks in a play-in game, like it could really go either way depending on who gets hot. So the East is so deep and such a so many wild cards. The Knicks aren't even really out of it yet. So out of the 15, really 12 are still competitive.
Yeah, and even like when you look at the top 6, I don't see a team that's just like overwhelmingly better than anybody else. Like my personal opinion, I think the Bucks are probably like the best team, like the most well-rounded team, but they're not unbeatable. They weren't even unbeatable last year. I think they're very much beatable, man. And it's like the East is just like so unpredictable. I think it can go either way. Like we might see a surprise team like come out the East this year. Like that's just how wild it actually is, man.
Yeah, I would not be completely shocked if any of those top 6 teams came out. I definitely feel better about some more than others, but I think any of them have a shot.
I mean, I think you can look at the top 3 seeds. I feel like none of the top 3 seeds are the favorites to come out of the conference.
No, probably not.
Which has definitely happened before. But when it happened before, it was because like LeBron's Cavs were like the 4 or 5 seed or something. And if LeBron's on your team, you're like the favorite. Maybe not this year, but historically, if LeBron's on your team, you're the favorite. So I definitely, if I was having to pick a favorite right now, I would say like healthy Nets or Bucks, which right now is a 4 and 5 seed. So I have no idea who's coming out.
Yeah,
Healthy Nets is just such a
sure.
big if, though. It's like if they're healthy, if they were healthy last year, they probably would have won it all, but they weren't. So it's like that's a big question mark. I think the Heat, even though they're 1 seed, I'm like, this is gonna sound weird, but I think they're a very, very sneaky contender. Like I think that could be the team that at the end of the day we might be seeing repping the Eastern NBA Finals.
Yeah, no,
I mean, they went 2 years ago. This core has made it to a finals before, so they know how to get there. Obviously, that was a very special situation.
I think Bam, Jimmy, and Kyle Lowry have only played like 13 games together. It's like a very low number. They haven't played that much. Yeah,
because Lowry's been out since Bam's been back. So
yeah, so
I think Kyle's a very easy player to fit in, though.
Oh, he is. Yeah, I don't think that's going to cause any problems later on. He's played 39 games. It just haven't been with Bam really, but
he's been very his counting numbers probably look bad.
They are not pretty, but his impact's been good.
Very good. Like when Jimmy and Bam both missed time, it was him, Tyler Hero, and then they just find guys. Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, Yurt 7. They just find guys like out of nowhere, undrafted dudes that just come in and are super impactful.
And not that he's some all-star anymore, but I mean, Oladipo's still going to come back at some point too. So even if he's just a 20-minute guy off the bench, like that's a nice team.
It's another piece.
They gave Duncan Robinson all that money, and now he honestly looks expendable. With all these shooters they have, it's like Duncan Robinson. If you want that guy on the court that's shooting, if Duncan's off, put in Strus.
Yeah.
Like put in Vincent. It's like
there's been very few contracts on guys that are just 3-point shooters like that look good, that are big contracts like that.
Hey, the Steph Curry effect. 10 years ago, dudes was not getting anywhere near this.
No, 100%. When I think of a shooter like that, I think back to way back in the day with the Raptors, and I know it was way across the league. No, Steve Novak. Novak's the name I think of. And that guy did not see the court, and all he could do was shoot. But now you get guys that are like that, and they're getting paid $15-17 million a year. Bertans got it. Bertans' contract doesn't look good. Duncan Robinson's already doesn't look good.
Ryan Anderson Rockets contract.
Ryan Anderson,
terrible.
that's one of the worst ones. That's one of the worst ones.
That 2016 offseason that's the worst offseason in NBA history. Yeah. Like the Warriors won by signing KD, and like almost every other signing was terrible.
Yeah, that was a rough offseason. I got a video coming out on that soon. That was a yikes.
It's just crazy. Like 10 years ago, like if you was just a 3-point shooter, you'd be lucky to get 15 minutes a game, let alone $15 million a year. Game has came so far since then.
It's just people thought people thought that centers that weren't like big time shooters would be obsolete and like by now 5 years ago. But like looking at the top seeds in the league, like you got Jared Allen out here leading a team to a 3 seed. Like
Got Bam.
you know,
Bam. I mean, Bam's got a bit of
yeah,
a mid-range,
Bam.
but he's not shooting threes.
I mean, yeah, like
DeAndre Ayton,
there's
he's
so
not really
many.
out there shooting threes.
Yeah.
Rudy
JV
Gobert.
or Steven Adams with the Grizzlies, like Rudy Gobert. So many guys. Like, sure, it helps to be able to shoot the three, but they definitely aren't obsolete.
For sure.
Last trade rumor I think I wanted to mention, Jeremy Grant. Interesting situation with him going to Detroit. Was, of course, on OKC and Denver, had a few playoff runs, was a role player, went to Detroit. Everyone thought it was an overpay, played really well. But now he doesn't really want to seem to give up that lead role. There's a few rumors this week saying that he wants to be a first or a second option, get north of like $100 million on a 4-year deal, wanting like 25+ million a year. So I don't know what the trade market is for him if he doesn't get traded to a contender, which he doesn't really seem to want to go. So what do we think about Jeremy Grant and where he goes?
Sorry, Tom Brady just retired, so that's crazy.
Did he?
Oh,
Yeah.
Tom Brady just
Oh, that's
retired.
worth having a bit of a hesitation for.
That's crazy. But back to Jeremy Grant. I was like going back to the 2020 offseason. I was very skeptical when he said he wanted a bigger role. I'm like, I don't think you really got that in your bag. But he proved me wrong. He proved that he can be somewhat of a first option on a bad team. Okay, that's fine. But he's best suited as maybe at best, I think, a third option. Maybe in a special scenario, he could be a number 2. So getting to that, I just think he needs to kind of put his ego to the side. Somebody will pay him good money. Like he's a very valuable player. Somebody will pay him good money. It's just the matter of like, do you want to win or not? Or are you just comfortable being what you're being right now? And that's a number 1 on a bad team, a young rebuilding team. I look at a place like Utah. I think Utah is the perfect fit for Jeremy Grant. I think he could be a borderline number 2 on that team. Him, Donovan Mitchell can, really take turns like closing games out. I think that'll be a good spot for him. He will slide in right away, probably be one of their better defenders on that team. And he can do a lot for that squad, man. I would just be wondering what they would have to give up to get Jeremy Grant, but I think that's the perfect spot for him, man. And there's some other places too, but that's the team that once I saw that trade, like I'm like, that makes the most sense to me.
I think he's going to become a villain, to be honest. I feel like a lot of people are going to start to turn on Jeremy Grant. He was like everybody's favorite player like 2 seasons ago. It's like, oh my gosh, this is my favorite role player that could really be a great player. And now it almost reminds me of like Melo with the Knicks, where it was like, oh, you can come to like the Bulls with D Rose and do some great things. But he's like, nah, I want to stay here and have this big role, get a bunch of stats and make a bunch of money. And you know what? Get your bag. But I feel like a lot of people that's not gonna sit right with a lot of people when he could definitely be using his skill set in a more impactful way for a team that's actually playing for something.
Yeah, to your first point, Tyrik, about money, like Aaron Gordon just got paid 4 years, $92 million to sign to be the 4th guy in Denver. Like he'll get his bag. So like
Sure.
if that's what he's thinking about, then like he'll get his bag wherever. He'll get that for sure. But I think Utah's a great fit, definitely. I don't know if that's even going to keep him happy. I hope it does, because I think that'd be a great ad for them and might actually push them a little bit closer to being a true contender. But I don't know, man. It's an interesting one. Like you were saying about Carmelo, like he might be happy to earn his bag and be able to take 20 shots a game, and better to him if that's what he wants. I mean, guy's going to be making his hundreds of millions. Who am I to say anything? But it's definitely interesting to have a guy who bet on himself, obviously had it work out, and might just be happier to collect his money and just be that lead guy. And fair enough. But
yeah, I saw Draymond Green said this on JJ Redick's podcast. He was like, I think about 85% of guys in the NBA don't actually love basketball.
yeah,
They just love what comes with playing in the NBA, which maybe this is a testament to that. Not trying to say Jeremy Grant don't love basketball, but maybe he just loves getting his bag a little more, which I respect people getting their money. I definitely respect that. But as an NBA fan, I just want to see him in a position to help a team, push themselves closer to being a championship team.
I want to have a reason to watch Jeremy Grant regularly. Not that I don't ever watch Detroit, but I'm not watching Detroit every night when they're just not a great team.
If I do, I'm watching to see Cade Cunningham. I'm not really watching to see Jeremy Grant.
Yeah, exactly.
If Detroit becomes good, is Jeremy Grant even their number one or number two? Like, I feel like by the time they're good, it's like Cade, and then it's like maybe probably whoever they draft in this upcoming draft because they're at the bottom of the conference, and then maybe Jeremy Grant is their three. So, do you ever stay happy if you get a 4-year extension here?
Yeah, like the only way he gets to remain a number one or a number two guy is if he keeps team hopping. Realistically, he ain't getting into Detroit. So
we'll see.
Our big discussion of the day is going to surround around the topic of why some good basketball players don't succeed in the NBA. I think we're going to have a few different ways to look at this, a few different reasons and avenues and players that we're going to talk about. That's where our starting point is, and I'm going to give it off to Gabe to give his initial thoughts. I don't know where you want to start with this. You want to start with a player, an idea, wherever. We're just going to start, and we're going to see where it takes us.
I'm going to just give an archetype that I think this happens with a lot. And you guys can kind of think of specific examples or kind of go off of this. But a lot of times the thing I see is players that get drafted or like signed that are like the star out of their college or wherever they were before the league. I think a lot of times if they go to a team that already has like a number one guy or kind of they're not expected to be that number one person, a lot of times it makes them really struggle. You can see that with like Lonzo early per se. We were talking about him earlier in the episode. He came into that Lakers team and he was like obviously the number one guy in UCLA, kind of ran everything. And then I think him trying to be a star, he really struggled to like begin his career. And then he really didn't start to right the ship until he went to like New Orleans where they had Ingram and Zion and kind of other pieces to take more of that load. And he became more like that third, fourth option. So I think a lot of guys that struggle when they come to the league and kind of get viewed negatively are guys whose skill sets are really best as like a third or fourth option, but because they were the best player on their college team, they kind of were given too much of a load too early.
Yeah, a lot of times
opposite can be said too for like a guy that doesn't get enough of an opportunity, and then because he has to mature quickly, gets looked at poorly. Like James Wiseman comes to mind for recent memory. Like he had to do things that no other rookie really had to do that was drafted at the top of that draft class. Now everyone thinks poorly of him, but he hasn't really got a chance to actually show the skill set of James Wiseman. He just had to play the center role in a Golden State system.
Yeah, I was going to transition. Like, I think fit also, plays a big part in why some guys don't succeed. And a lot of times, if you just get off to that rough start in your career, like you're on a team that just, you don't fit in well, like you're there for like 3-4 years, it's hard for you to kind of gain a footing, to be that top pick that you were, once were. We've seen that with a lot of different kind of guys. To Gabe's point, I think Josh Jackson maybe is a good like example. Like he came to Phoenix, Devin Booker's already there. He's the young star. So it's like, how does he fit along? He was a top 5 pick in a pretty heavily loaded draft class. And, we see it didn't work out in Phoenix. And now he's kind of turning his career around in, a little bit of a way, but he's not the guy that he was drafted to be. So I think that's the one example that came to my mind when I thought about your point, Gabe.
Yeah, Justice Winslow's another guy who kind of fits that a bit too. Was a bit more of a point forward in college, comes in, is more of a traditional winger, and had his best basketball when he played more as a point guard or a point forward in Miami, but otherwise hasn't really fit in that well.
And you can really tell now, I think, when teams are looking at like top draft picks, I'll say, for example, I think like the Trae Young, he was drafted 5, and I think 4 in that draft was Jaren Jackson, if I'm correct, same draft class. Yep. And you see a lot of guys like that, and for some reason, it's always like that number 4 spot. They're always drafted as like project players that just have those traits, but like their college counting numbers weren't that crazy, or like they really weren't doing anything like ridiculous, but it was more of those physical like role player things, and you think their game will transition well. Whereas then they see a guy in college like Trae Young, and they probably looked at him almost like a Jimmer type guy, where he was doing crazy things against like a little bit lower competition and like making crazy shots, just like absolutely terrorizing defenses. But they were like, might not play the most defense in the world, kind of might not be able to transition that like star type game to the next level. And I mean, he proved them wrong. So it's really hard to judge players sometimes, because you could definitely have seen Trey going down as a Jimmer Fredette, but you could have seen Jimmer Fredette becoming what Trey Young is now. So it's really, it's so hard to judge.
Yeah, and also a lot of teams, they love to draft guys. They fall in love with potential. They fall in love with the potential of what somebody could be instead of them already showing you what they kind of are. And I think that kind of bites a lot of – that's why we see a lot of guys, like, get drafted high, and we're like, how did he get drafted that high? We see it happen pretty much every single year. Like, down the line, we'll look at a guy like, can't believe he got drafted top 5. And it's because a lot of times teams look at the potential, what they possibly could be, instead of, looking at what they've shown they are. And it comes back to bite teams a lot.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why the Dragon Benders and the Exepe Udos of the world were as high as they were. And the same reason, similarly, that the Raptors took Scotty Barnes instead of Jalen Suggs, because, sure, Jalen Suggs had probably proven more, but there was more upside that they saw in Scotty Barnes, which already has kind of looked like it paid off. But then you get the flip side where you get the Dragon Benders of the world and it doesn't pay off. And ultimately, sometimes you get a team like the Suns that know they're a decent team and look to take a Cameron Johnson type player because they want to win now. But then you get a lot of teams that are in the top of the lottery that need a big piece. So they kind of got to take that shot on someone and hope it pays off, because having a Cam Johnson is nice, but if he's your piece you're building around, then it doesn't really do anything for you.
Yeah, that's why I say teams should just draft for fit, other than like who's the next like just superstar. Like who shows the most flashes that, if their offense catches up to their defense, they can be a superstar. They can be an all-star guy. And that's another thing. The guys that it's like they're great raw athletes, their defense is good, but if their offense catch up, man, they're going to be an all-star. And those are mainly the guys that become busts, like a Josh Jackson. That's the prime example, honestly. Then there's a lot more. Like I don't know if y'all remember, Wesley Johnson was a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
In 2010. And he's another dude, super raw athlete, but his offense never caught up to that defense. And now he's not even in the league anymore, a little over a decade later.
I think it depends, though, because you could say draft for fit with, like, going back to the James Wiseman thing. It was like, okay, the Warriors have, like, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, the Andrew Wiggins at the 3, Draymond, then center. So you obviously take the center. But imagine if they drafted LaMelo in that spot. I see, like, what Jordan Poole is doing now, and it's like, obviously back then they didn't have that Jordan Poole type guy, so you couldn't really, like, see him as a shoe-in fit there. But, like, I could definitely see LaMelo now, in hindsight, of course, going to the Warriors and being very successful, and I think they'd be even better now than they are currently if they had LaMelo.
Yeah, I could see that. Especially with Curry getting injured too. Of course, things you just don't know, but even if they were drafting for not fit, I don't know if they go the way of LaMelo either way, but there's definitely an argument to be said for sometimes there's a time to take the shot on a prospect, and other times it's like when you have your one guy, I don't mind drafting for fit and taking a role player. Like if you're a team like Detroit now, you believe in Cade, Cade's your guy. Sure, if you have a number 1 pick, obviously you're taking your number 1 guy, but if I'm pick 4, pick 5, I feel a little bit more inclined to take a guy that I know I'm getting at least a solid NBA player out of than someone who could be amazing, but also could turn into a Wesley Johnson type player.
Yeah, I don't know if LaMelo, like, would he be the same LaMelo though? Like, I don't think he would.
Probably
That
not.
might have stunted his growth just a little bit. I think the good thing for him, he went to a team that believed in him and they gave him the keys pretty early on, and they just allowed him to rock out and do his thing. I don't think the Warriors would maybe be inclined to do that, honestly. But
I mean, with what Jordan Poole is doing, though,
two different kind of players.
couldn't
Two
LaMelo be
different kind
doing
of players,
that?
though. Two different kind of players, though. And then you look
But
at
it's
that.
just an opportunity.
Jordan Poole might not be the same player that he is now, because Jordan Poole was already there too. So he might not be the same guy that he is now. So I don't know. I think the Warriors I think they made the right pick. It's just James Wiseman hasn't played a lot, which is kind of a red flag. But he didn't really have injury history before he got to the league. It was more so he just didn't play a lot of college basketball. That was his main issue.
Yeah, they gotta I still think they got to make that trade though. Like obviously, all three of their young guys, Kuminga, Moses Moody, and Wiseman, they all got potential, and I think they can all do something. But I feel like they need to go somewhere new. I feel like if there was a part of like, I don't know what team would be blowing up next. The first, like most of the teams that come to my mind, I feel like usually trying to get off guards. But if the opportunity comes, I think they need to pull that trigger sooner than later.
It's tough though, even from just a contract standpoint, because without Wiggins involved in the trade, which probably doesn't happen at this point, there's not many trades they can make to match salaries, unfortunately. Like Wiseman's like 9 or 9.5 million or something like that. I think like they can get close to 20, 22 million, but that's about it. So it's tough financially to make a trade.
I would hang on to Kuminga. I think he got next in that Warriors organization, especially with how high Draymond talks about him. And I just don't think Draymond just talks about anybody like that. I think, and when Kuminga gets minutes, he's so productive too. Kind of getting a little off topic, but when he plays, he hoops for sure.
Yeah.
And he's another case, like if his offense catches up one day, he's going to be an elite. So hopefully in that Warriors system, his offense will catch up because he can be a special player for sure.
I honestly
Is that sustainable though? Is it sustainable to have the young guys with the older guys like that? When your star player is like 33, is it good to be also developing guys that are like 21 at the same time?
Well, the good thing is like those guys don't really have to play, and they can utilize the G League system to develop them, and also they might get some. They're also developing on the NBA level because they are getting minutes. Mainly Kuminga is getting minutes on the NBA level, so he can get some valuable experience, especially like. You never know. He might get some playoff experience. Like he might be on the court in some playoff situations, which can be very good for his development, for his confidence. It's weird because there's some teams I say like you can't have your young guy, like you can't have your cake and eat it too. But there's some situations like I think the Warriors, it's kind of a different situation. It's kind of weird. Like they're kind of an anomaly in that case.
They've figured out how to develop players pretty well. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt on that one so far. But before I wrap this up, I want to move this to a different point of this topic. But talking about Jonathan Kuminga might be a slight hot take, but if he was given the opportunity that someone like Scotty Barnes was given this year, I honestly don't think we'd be talking about him too differently. I think there's a lot of similarities there. Maybe Barnes is a little bit further advanced on offense than Kuminga is right now, but long, athletic, a lot of versatility, good defensively, good rebounder, can attack the rim. I think there's a lot of similarities there. Maybe he doesn't quite have the vision or playmaking of Scotty Barnes yet, but I think there's a lot of similarities between those two guys.
Yeah, I think there's a reason why Kuminga fell in the draft. There's a lot of question marks about his offensive upside, and that's why Scotty Barnes was rising on draft boards. But let me propose this for y'all because those two guys, they're very similar to the main three dudes I had written down when we talked about this topic. And they're kind of like tweeners in a way. But tweeners have become something that's praised when back like a decade ago. If you were a tweener, it was kind of a negative thing. Like, do you think like guys like the top two dudes I had written down was Jabari Parker, Derek Williams. Those guys were tweeners. They were kind of threes, but they also played the four. Do you think like the development of, positionless basketball could have helped some of these guys that had become busts, but had, all the talent in the world?
I think it can to a point, but I feel like there's also tweeners in the modern NBA that, depending on their organization or the coach, still don't really work out. I mean, Marvin Bagley is someone who immediately came to mind as soon as he talked about tweeners. Now, given there's other things going on there, but exactly, that's the Kings. But I think it definitely could have helped, but I think for some guys, they just, even in a positionless NBA, from a night-to-night basis, it genuinely depends on the matchups. Like Frank Kaminsky is just a guy who's a 4 but a 5 and can't fit well. Jabari Parker, sure, it's not as good as he was when he was with the Bucks pre-injury, but there's just some nights, depending on the 4 who's on the other side of the floor, he just can't defend them well enough because his mobility isn't there and his defensive abilities aren't there. So I think it would have helped some guys more than others, but some of them I think probably just wouldn't have been great either way.
If you take Jabari Parker, I don't think positionless basketball helps him because I feel like literally the way the league is going is versatility, and like all the guys that are super highly touted and like are drafted highly and then get big opportunities are usually those like long, versatile guys who can guard multiple positions. And the way versatility is going, if Jabari Parker can't guard any positions, I think that just makes things even worse for him because he's not going to be able to switch on to people. And, like, especially, I don't think he'll be able to, like, guard pick and roll as well and stuff like, I don't know.
Well, I'm not
Guys
saying
that
like
fell off because are based off defense. It's like all guys that are bust. I think you just have to. The only ones that would really benefit from modern basketball are guys that you can see fitting in well with versatility.
I don't know. I feel like offensive versatility is also a big factor in that too.
It's
Like
definitely a thing. Like I
I
think
just
someone
believe,
like Giannis would have suffered more in previous days.
yeah,
So like someone like him in today's NBA, I don't know. I can't really think of anyone that was like that in the past that could have benefited from that. But someone of that type of mold that is more of a big but doesn't get to do those types of things, those players would be better nowadays. But yeah, like Jabari Parker, I don't know. Like offensive versatility would definitely be there, but the defensive versatility just wouldn't be. So I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't tend to think it would help that much, but it's tough.
just a thought, man. Because I feel like some guys were kind of a little bit ahead of their time. Like we've
Definitely.
seen that a lot.
Well,
And there's
yeah,
also
versatility can definitely help tweeners. Like just on a
yeah,
general like blanket statement, yeah. If you're a tweener because you're versatile, then yeah, I think you could transition well.
If you were a tweener because you didn't fit at anything, then yeah. That's another conversation.
Right.
That's so.
another dude like Michael Beasley. I think he was way ahead of his time. I mean, he's had other issues and stuff, but basketball wise, I think he was a little bit ahead of his time because it was like he was like 6'9", but it's like he's got the ability of a 3, but he's kind of a 4. It's just kind of weird, but he played a lot of 3 early on in his career, and it might have like stunted his growth a little bit, honestly.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think he definitely would have been better off another 3, 4, 5 years down the road.
His
Yeah.
skill set just screams like, and maybe this is just because I got onto Michael Beasley a little late, but his skill set to me just screams like good bench role player. Just because he's such a guy that's like, hey, I'm gonna get the ball and score. You even see him like tweeting all the time now, like, oh yeah, nobody can guard me. And it's like, yeah,
Bucket.
but if you can't guard nobody, then you're probably best utilized as one of those spark plug bench guys more than anything else.
True, but he was drafted like it was kind of a legit question if it was him or Derrick Rose at the top of that draft in '08 because Beasley was him in college. Like I think he averaged like 25, 12, crazy numbers. Like Beasley was supposed to be that next dude. Like people will tell you from the DMV area, like they will say Michael Beasley around that time was better than Kevin Durant, like when they were in high school.
And that's what I mean. Guys that are stars in college, then they come to the league and it's like, okay, you're on Dwayne Wade's team now. You can't do all your college star stuff. You kind of
Yeah.
have to fit somewhere. And I think that kind of ties up my main point that I started with is like, if you're so used to having the keys and the complete green light, it's going to be hard for you to fit anywhere. Because most young guys, when you get to the league, the only way you have that complete green light is if your team is like not good. And you see a lot of times those teams end up building bad cultures and then they just stay not good.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Like sometimes even having the keys to the car can be a bad thing because maybe you're not ready to be the driver at that point.
Yeah, it's definitely something to be said for it both ways. Some guys that come in get the green light are great. Some guys that don't. I mean, like look at Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram was fine with the Lakers, never great. Got his own opportunity. Kind of got to be a bit more of the guy because he was never a true catch and shoot 3-point guy that was going to be a good spacer around LeBron and fit in much better. But then you get the flip side of that where guys get the green light and either they're just not good enough for it or it hurts their confidence and it's not a good fit. So it goes both ways depending on the player for sure.
Y'all have some guys that you were just so certain were going to be like all-star caliber dudes that just were never even close to that?
I don't know if I watch enough college basketball to feel confident about anyone, to be honest. I don't know. No one immediately comes to mind, if I'm being honest.
This is a pretty obvious take, but I bought a lot of Lonzo stock. Not saying he can't ever be like an all-star, but I thought he was going to be a superstar. and now it's like very high quality role player. I feel like his ceiling at this point is like a Drew Holiday like level.
Yeah.
I bought a lot of, Gabe, I'm a Carolina fan, so this hurts to say, but I bought a lot of Jabari Parker stock when he was in college. I thought he was the next big thing. And obviously injuries, but that was a poor take for sure. Another one, I thought Dennis Smith Jr. was going to be that guy too. I really did.
He looked good early on. He did.
He was kind of promising on the Mavericks to begin with too. It's just like we said, he was a star at NC State. Came to the Mavericks, pretty promising rookie year because they weren't really doing much. Luka comes into the picture. You got to fit now, and he couldn't fit. And then he went to other teams, and he just couldn't fit anywhere because his game didn't translate to being a lower option.
I blame Rick Carlisle.
Yeah,
that's
why.
It
definitely didn't help.
He's kind of getting Rick Carlisle's kind of been getting exposed. So the Pacers, I feel like their roster is better than 13 seed. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, they definitely should have been playing better than they have been this year. I mean, again, they've dealt with a lot of injuries and stuff, but they still should be better than they have been for sure.
That is a franchise that needs to hit the full reset.
Yeah, they do. They
definitely trade everybody, man. Trade everybody.
Yeah, they do. I'm going to bring this back to unfortunately someone we've probably all talked about too much in the last 6 to 8 months, but because we're having the conversation, I got to talk about what would happen if Ben Simmons was in a better situation. Got to have the conversation. So let's say Ben Simmons is somewhere they don't have someone like Joel Embiid. They have his floor spacing 5. He doesn't have to be alongside another big. He just has a bunch of shooters around him. Does that change how Ben Simmons is throughout the first 4 to 5 years of his career, or is Ben Simmons still more or less the same player and perceived the same way?
I think he would benefit from it for sure. Like he would average more points, get to the bucket a lot easier. Wouldn't be so much congestion, so he could operate more. But I think Ben Simmons kind of just is what he is. Like his numbers would look better, but I think he would still have the same impact. I still think he's somebody that you could potentially build a team around. How good is that team? I'm not sure, but I think him and Joel together is kind of hindered both of their games in a way. So it's like, it's almost impressive that they've had so much success, even though their fit isn't that well, but they've still been able to win a lot of games. But that's the ideal, like Ben Simmons, 4 shooters, 5 out offense. That's ideal. But that would take a lot of that would take a lot to build a team like that around him. So it's a good idea though, but it's tough to do.
His expectations would definitely be lower because he came into a terrible Philadelphia situation and made the playoffs year 1, but then played really poorly in the playoffs. And it's like, okay, yeah, he was your second best player and the team's a lot better now, but probably not ready for that moment yet. And if he went to a team that was bad, or a lot worse, I should say, going forward, because obviously that Philly team with Joel Embiid was there, but he missed so much of that season that they bottomed out again. But yeah, he would definitely be perceived a lot lower expectations, but I think a lot of negative narratives would still pop up, like the ones you saw with Booker early on or Zach LaVine for a long time. But I don't know if he would have developed into something greater than he is now. Like Tyrik said, I think he just is what he is. I hate when people say try to compare him to Giannis basically and think that, oh, if you put Ben Simmons on the Bucks with that roster, they'd still be just as good. To me, that's just disrespect to Giannis. He is a generational talent, and you can't just put any tall point forward in that situation and expect the same results.
No, yeah, definitely not. I think if you're going to compare him to anyone in terms of his ideal role, Draymond Green's a little bit more accurate than it is anywhere near Giannis. But even then, I mean, Draymond's just been so good. But I think for Ben Simmons to be most successful, that's his type of role. I'm a playmaker, point forward, play really good defense, but he shouldn't be a guy that has to be expected on to put 20 points a night. That's just not his game. He's not Giannis level. Even if he's in a better situation on that team, doesn't matter. That's 2 completely different levels for sure.
I think peak Ben Simmons is like a modern day Lamar Odom. That's how I see him. Like you said, point forward, do a little bit of everything, not shoot the ball like Lamar Odom could, but defense out of this world. I think that's kind of like the best version of Ben Simmons. I remember when he was coming into the league, they was giving him the LeBron tag, and I think that just destines somebody for like a lot of criticism in their career because LeBron's truly just one of a kind. Like there's no other LeBron.
No one else is going to be like LeBron, just like no one else is going to be like MJ. Like people look up to MJ, people look up to LeBron, but there ain't going to be nobody that's that good, that same level, that impact is
Just
not,
like they gave
true.
BI the Kevin Durant tag, and that's just like KD's one of a kind, bro. Like just because he's 6'9" with long arms does not mean he's KD. But I'm glad BI has been able to make his own name though, for sure.
My last big point I do want to make, though, about Simmons is I think if he did go to a different team, I think it would help one of his biggest flaws, and it's not even shooting. It's just his aggressiveness. I think the fact that he came in already behind Embiid really limited that, okay, I'm the top dog. I got to go get this mentality. And you've seen it so many times where, like, one game that sticks out in my head is when Embiid missed a game against the Jazz and Ben Simmons dropped, like, 40 points and was talking trash to Gobert and all that. And it's like, okay, like he has it in him to have really big moments like that. But then he's playing behind Embiid and behind other options. And then you get to a point like that Hawks series where he's wide open under the basket and doesn't shoot. And it's like, okay, if he developed independent from Embiid, would he be more of that 40-point guy, like pop off, more of the number one alpha dog type player?
That's definitely possible.
We've seen times too when Embiid missed like, a 10-game stretch. And Ben Simmons looked super elite. He was scoring like 20, 22 points a game. He's doing everything that he already did, just a little more aggression. So that's the idea, man. I hope this saga ends, bro. I don't think he's getting traded before the deadline, but I hope he finds his new team. Hope he finds his new team in the offseason, man.
And I still really would love to see him in Minnesota. It probably won't happen, but that would be so fun. So many shooters, spacing.
That's the ideal fit. Or the Blazers need to build up Anthony Simon's stock.
Bro.
Nurkic has been playing good too, man. Nurkic is trying to raise that trade value too. He knows.
Hey, get him up out of there, man.
Blazers need to sell Damian Lillard, get Simmons, and then Harden can leave Brooklyn. Damian Lillard, James Harden, Joel Embiid. Tell me you wouldn't want to see that. Assuming they get off of Toby as well.
I wouldn't.
You would not want to see that? I would. Whether it crashes and burns or is very successful, that's going to be entertaining.
It would be amazing entertainment and content, that's for sure. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
I don't know what else it would be good for, but
that sounds like a 2K trade for sure.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
We'll see though. We'll see.
Man. I just want to see him play basketball somewhere else, see him back on the court, hopefully succeed a bit more.
It's been a minute, man. I've been a big Ben Simmons supporter since the day he got drafted, man. I've been a big supporter, so it pains me to see this man not playing basketball because I think he's so underappreciated just because he can't shoot. People just kill him for it, man. So my man needs to change the scenery bad.
Definitely.
Yeah. Shooting is big, but shooting's not everything. Rudy Gobert has been leading a team to a top blank record for the past, 5 years.
I mean, two-time MVP out of the last 3 years is a guy who barely can shoot a three, and when he shoots it, doesn't shoot them that well. So it might be a three-point shooting and spacing league, but, I mean, the three best players in MVP right now are Giannis, Jokic, and Embiid, and Jokic and Embiid can shoot a three a bit, but you got two bigs and Giannis who can't really shoot a three that much. So
it's
Simmons
just aggression.
Can definitely still have a big impact. It's just got to get the right situation.
It's all down to aggression.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Any other big points or topics you guys had that you wanted to make?
I think we touched on everything for real. That was a good little discussion though.
Yeah. That was good. Like that.
Yeah, we got a nice lengthy episode, a couple side points,
Oh, that was good. If you guys have made it this far, we appreciate it. Be sure to leave your thoughts down below on the AllStar starters, trade rumors, and this topic we have just now had on how players do or don't succeed in the NBA based on a whole bunch of different circumstances. But we appreciate you guys being here. Leave a like, subscribe, leave a 5-star review, whatever you need to do, wherever you guys are watching. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week, same time, same place. Peace.